We're coming at you live from Fantasy Six Pack World Headquarters. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your absolute favorite fantasy baseball podcast. It's the Two Guys, One Roto show. Alongside my tag team partner, Rich Sayre, I am merely David Whitcomb. Hello, Rich.
Hey, hello. Glad to be back.
How are you, sir?
Doing good. Living this World Baseball Classic life and enjoying that.
Yeah, Team Italy leading Venezuela right now, 2-1 last I looked.
I think they just signed it up.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing our buys and fades on the mound. We gave you the guys in the dirt, we gave you the guys in the grass, and now we're moving to the bump. So we're going to the mound. And we're going to give you 4 starting pitchers each that we like to, or that we dislike, I guess, that we want to fade based on their ADP, and then 4 that we like based on their ADP. And we're going to get a little deep. We're going to give you on the buy side a pitcher outside the top 200 and a pitcher outside the top 300. And then we're going to wrap up with a kind of a head-to-head reliever matchup argument. So we'll see how that goes. As always, our show is brought to you by FantasySixPack.net. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So Rich Sayre, we typically start with the fades, as I recall. So we like to give the bad news to the fans first.
Yep.
You want to give us your fade, sir?
Yep, I'll jump into it. I am going to fade somebody that I don't see faded very often, so running a little bit counter to the mainstream. I'm going to fade Bryan Wu. He's got an ADP of 35. I think he's a talented guy, no doubt. He's got a great fastball. He's had an ERA in the 2s the past 2 seasons. So, what am I doing here? What is, Mr. Stat Nerd going to talk about? Well, and that's what it's going to be. It's simply a regression to the mean for the luck factors. Wu had a BABIP last year at 238. He had a 80% plus left on base rate. Even the year before that, he had a 240 BABIP, 77% left on base. So he might be better than the norm. The norm's going to be in the 280-ish to 300 range for BABIP and 70% for left on base. If you're not familiar with that, get familiar. It's very helpful when you're looking at some of these players that are performing well or not performing well. There may be some evidence he can kind of outperform the norm. That's not super unusual, but it's not to that degree. He's not super fly ball oriented, so you wouldn't really expect him to perform those metrics to that rate. If he has closer to the median outcomes in those 2 metrics, you're going to have an ERA around 3.5, not under 3. But you don't have to take my word for it. His FIP last year was 3.47. So
I was actually literally about to ask you what it was. Good job.
Additionally, he's on a 3-year trend of increasing average exit velocity against him, as well as max exit velocity and hard hit rate. It's a gradual trend. It's not like you're going up a roller coaster. But as mostly a fastball sinker guy and mostly just fastball guy against lefties, you wonder if the league is making some adjustments. He's going to have to, I think, have maybe a different tool in his toolbox at some point to make some adjustments back. I just don't like the ADP here. So that's my fade.
I know it's totally fair. Former guest host Sean Fenty suggested him as a fade earlier today, based on his injuries, though, not based on his deep dive into the stats, like you just gave us, Rich.
Yep.
But yeah, he a couple of years ago he had the elbow strain, which fortunately turned out to not be serious for him. And then last year he had the biceps. So
towards the end of the season,
and he's also not exactly renowned for, like, he's never thrown heavy innings ever in the minors or in college. Well, nobody throws heavy innings in college, but you know what I mean. They throw a lot of pitches, a lot of pitches in one game. But anyway, it would be fair to say that that guy needs to find a new method, man. Saying okay.
All right.
We're off to a flying start. All right, that's good. I'm gonna give you my fade. It's somebody I've already talked about in an article recently, so I'm being a little lazy here, but frankly, a little lazy is an improvement on my normal amount of lazy. So So anyway, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's coming off a career high in innings pitched, when you include the playoffs, and that includes his time in Nippon League Baseball. I looked it up because I'm not that lazy. But the Dodgers don't have kind of the embarrassment of riches of pitching that they've had in years past. They were counting on, I guess counting, who knows? They were planning on Gavin Stone being back this year and being healthy, and he's suffered a shoulder injury early in spring, and not a lot of news since then. So shoulder plus no news is not usually good news. But they still have, Robleski, and they still have River Ryan maybe coming, and who knows? With the Dodgers, like Bobby Miller could win 11 games for them this year. Like, who knows? It's just who knows with these guys.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, but the bottom line is they've just got plenty of pitching, and in all likelihood, they're going to win that division by at least 8 games, let's say, maybe more. They have no reason to push them. There's just no reason. I don't really see any. We've talked about this, Rich. I don't really see any between Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow's natural injuries, let's say. Or injury proneness. And I just don't see anybody on that staff making more than about 25 starts. Yamamoto is certainly capable, but there's just no reason to push him. They need him healthy for the playoffs, so why push it? So, at 25 starts and with an ADP in the third round to 24.8, you're just not getting the value there. You need him to make 30, 32 starts, and I just don't see him doing that. Not through any fault of his own. He's just going to randomly have a tendonitis or a broken toenail or something. Who knows? Anyway, hair ache is what we used to say about Shaquille O'Neal when he decided to randomly sit out games. So anyway, Yamamoto, I'm fading just not based on the talent, but based on the volume. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you have some thoughts?
No, I mean, it's good idea in general. I think you have these guys coming off these playoff highs. They're going to be overvalued a little bit. Had a fantastic season last year, had some of those same metric outperformances potentially that I was talking about with Bryan Wu. So I think the fade makes sense there. Earlier in the spring training, I think the Dodgers were talking about maybe a 6-man rotation. You've heard that a few times in years past and never really happened formally. So I don't know what the status on that is, but there's a lot of factors where that could not return the value you expect.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right, you want to head to our first buy? We get to give the fans some good news.
We're going to go into buys. I'm going to say...
Never mind. I was going to make it. Never mind. Let's not make that joke. No. Go ahead.
I'm going to say that I did some prep for this segment of our show earlier than this week, but I'm sticking with my guy here. I've been talking about him all off season on Twitter, X, whatever. My buy is going to be Chase Burns. He's was riding an ADP of a 110, 120 type range. We got hot news today, hot take, potentially news today that
burning news
not going to break the opening day rotation or roster. Actually, I guess I should say that's the rumor supposedly. I don't know that I buy that. A little bit of speculation from a good source apparently. So, there's certainly downside here. I think you may get a better return. I think you can actually hold off possibly a little bit longer. But I love Chase Burns in general. His main obstacle was going to be innings overall. He only threw about 109 innings last year, so this could be part of that. This could be a service time play. There's a lot of things that it could be. I do think that he's going to be up. I do think he's going to be a starting pitcher. My bold prediction earlier in the offseason was that he was going to potentially win the Cy Young. So we'll see how that plays out. If he was to break the opening day rotation in some capacity, not obviously the opening day starter, I still think he could lead the National League in strikeouts. So there's a ton of upside. I think his skills are off the chart. The fastball is off the chart. I've really been leaning into guys that have dominant fastballs as an area where you have some foundation for solid performance. So I'm going to stick with Chase Burns, and that's going to be my first buy.
No, I appreciate your conviction. The fans appreciate your conviction, and the country appreciates your conviction.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so thank you for your attention on this matter. So I couldn't agree further. with regards to Burns talent-wise. The source you were referring to is C. Trent Rosecrans, who's the senior Cincinnati Reds correspondent, writer, whatever you call it, for The Athletic. Used to work for the Cincinnati, I can't remember the name of the newspaper, it might be Inquirer. Anyway, whatever it is. So he is a very reliable source. Now, to be clear, he was not basing that information from the team. He was just basing that on his own roster projection, partially based on Brandon Williamson, who is having a great spring. And people forget, actually, that he and I forget the other guy, but anyway, whoever, he and somebody, this is great information I'm giving you here, were the return they got for trading Eugenio Suarez to Seattle in the first place. And now Suarez is back, and Williamson might be part of the rotation. So that'd be kind of a neat, turn of events or whatever. But anyway, bottom line is Burns uber talented. Whenever he does make his debut, be it on the opening day roster or later, you're going to be wishing you had him. I think I agree with that wholeheartedly. So anyway, all right. So I am going to go with my first buy, and it's narrative all day long. It's Nathan Eovaldi. He's going on average at 145.6, so it's in the 13th round. And it's just narrative. All my fades have pretty much have good stats to back them up, like Rich is fond of doing. None of my buys do, pretty much. Well, one of them does, but anyway. So there's good times. I'm just giving you a bunch of horse poo. But I'm actually picking Texas to win the American League West this year. And if they're going to do that, they're going to need, at least reasonable health from DeGrom and from Eovaldi and, all their starting pitching, obviously, but particularly those two guys. I'm going to the Eovaldi leading the staff of Fangraphs WAR, given about 160 innings, and I'm going to give him 14 wins this year. So that's in the 13th round. That's one heck of a find. So Eovaldi, former playoff hero for the Red Sox. He's done it before. I think this is kind of one last hurrah for Eovaldi this year. Any thoughts, Rich Sayre?
Yeah, I mean, even though the innings have been truncated a little bit, I'm looking the last 3 seasons. You got 12, you got 11 wins. That's pretty solid. You got a pretty solid ERA. Maybe it's not going to be 1.73. That's okay if you're taking him in the 13th round. And then you're going to get 150-something strikeouts. So I think that's a great value at that pick.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Why don't you head to your second fade, sir?
My second fade, probably won't be surprised if you've had any baseball-related conversations with me. I'm going to go Trey Yesavage here. He's got a similar ADP to Eovaldi, even though he's done none of the things that we've just been talking about with Eovaldi. That's okay. He's a rookie. He's got an ADP around 130. Everybody knows, if you've seen him at all, you saw him in the playoffs. He's got a killer splitter. We saw what it looked like when things are going well. 2 reasons he's on my fade list. I generally fade pitchers with only one good pitch, and especially if that's not a fastball.
Yeah.
And especially if the fastball is not particularly good. In this case, I don't love the fastball. I won't say it's bad. The stuff models don't love it. I do think it plays off the split a little bit more than the stuff models will give it credit for. But the locations are not very good, and that's his other issue is the command. This could improve with reps. He doesn't have a ton of reps to this point. He came up relatively quickly after his draft, but he didn't have good location on any of his pitches. He also throws a slider. It's kind of weird in the movement profile. It's actually got some arm side run, but in general, it's also not in the zone a whole lot. So it's actually a threefold issue now that we've gone into it. I was going to talk about 2 issues. He's also going to be on an innings limit. So I realize, again, my notes were prepared in advance, and I just recommended a guy that's seemingly on an innings limit. However, we've already heard, his team say there's some mystery around what's happening with Burns. We've already heard Toronto say that he's going to be on an innings limit. So I think you could see him end up spending a lot of the season as a multi-inning reliever, and then they kind of try to activate him in the second half. I think there's going to be some really good starts, but I think there's also going to be some blow-up outings. I don't love the command. And I think, again, what we were just talking about with Yamamoto, when you have a dazzling kind of playoff performance on the main stage that everyone's seen, you got a little bit of an inflated draft spot. So for those reasons, I'm fading Yesavage.
And I'm sorry if you said it, I missed it. Where did you say he's going ADP wise?
Around 130.
Around 130. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So kind of 10th, 11th roundish. So that's
all
right. It's fair enough. Yesavage, incidentally, I had not looked at him especially closely. That sounds creepy. But if you have a chance, go to Trey Yesavage's baseball reference page and look at his picture. And then like the sloth character from Goonies. If Sloth were skinny and normal looking, that's what Trey Yesavage looks like. So work with me on this one, folks.
All right.
All right. I'm going to go into what am I doing? My second fade here, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I MC the show and I also can't keep track of the show. So that's a good combination. Anyway, my second fade is none other than Brandon Woodruff. Now he's going outside the top 100, which is where we're trying to stay with our fades, but I don't know. He's got a bigger name, so I just went with it. He's going at 122.8. So that's right smack dab in kind of the early-ish middle 11th round. Here's fun things that he said 2 days ago. He's currently uncertain about his status for opening day, and he's throwing sim games. Sim games. Like, what does that even mean? His last 3 years combined, he's thrown 131 and 2/3 innings. 3 years combined. Like, I would venture to guess that I don't even know who's a good reliever to cite. Mason Miller has probably thrown more innings than Brandon Woodruff in the last 3 years in the majors.
Don't connect those two.
Don't connect those two, guys. Yeah, we're not putting bad juju out there. Yeah. He also wildly outpitched his metrics last year. He had a full season career low fastball velocity by nearly 3 miles per hour over his previous career. I'm going to go with, I hate to do this to like friend of the show, Nathan Valentine. I'm going over under 4.5 starts this year, and I'm taking the under on Brandon Woodruff.
That's a big fade. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want any part of a guy who's not sure when he's going to play and has thrown, missed an entire year and in the 2 years surrounding that through like 60 innings. So yeah, big fade for me. So, it would be fair to say he did not give me Woodruff. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Yikes. All right, go ahead into a second buy, sir.
I will do that. Yeah. So my next buy is going to be, just making a little note of the time here. Sorry, Shane Baz. So you immediately look at him. He's got an ADP at 228. So that's fairly late in the game. He's had a 4.87 ERA coming off that last season. Got traded to a team not a lot of people are talking about. I'm not really sure why. I think they've done some good things this offseason, especially for this season coming up. Yep. But kind of getting, I think, overlooked a little bit. So I just think he's got really a lower ADP than he should have. 2024, he had some good fortune. He had a very low 3 ERA, and last year it went, almost all the way the other way. Maybe some home run misfortune. There's a lot of talk about home runs being inflated depending on the player hitting them in Steinbrenner Field. So he had that high 4s ERA, but a big bump in strikeouts. He also got batters to chase 5% more. So I think he did some good things under the hood last year. He did this primarily by throwing his curveball more often and also tightening it up a little bit, coming in a little faster, a little bit less drop. So he changed the shape on it a little bit, started throwing a cutter, tinkering around a little bit with the pitch mix. So I think you're seeing a pitcher that's still evolving, still relatively young. I think he has the potential to consolidate some of those things this year, especially with some new, maybe a new voice on the pitching coach side, and for a team with a lot better offense. So I think he's going to have a good bump in value this year, and you're going to get a nice discount where he is right now.
Gotcha. And again, I'm sorry, the ADP?
228.
228. Okay, gotcha. Wow, going deep. Shane Baz, actually, I wrote in December, I think, about Baz in an article about 5 dynasty buys and fades following the 2025 season. Couldn't agree further. Better situation for him. He was top. I mean, we forget how lauded a prospect he was. He was like a universal top 10, 15 prospect in baseball.
Yep.
And then, suffered the injury and missed better part about a year and a half. But very possibly is just kind of still rounding back into post injury. Is that a thing? I don't know. Whatever. Fully formed Shane Baz, so to be. So yeah. No, I would like the Wizard of Baz a lot. So we'll see how that goes. So I didn't make that one up. That's not mine.
Is that a commonly? I was going to ask you. Is that a known? I kind of
no. I know that's a Tampa thing. Okay. No word on whether Baltimore bought the rights to that terrible thing. All right, so I'll go into my second buy. There is not one single stat that I can cite that backs up this claim, apart from Woodruff's innings pitched, maybe. Although that's hardly a guarantee with this guy. But I will take this guy straight up over all of my fades, including Yamamoto. That's Trevor Rogers. Trevor Rogers. He's going at 136.4, so that's right smack dab in the middle of the 12th round. Last year, he in the second half post All-Star break, he had the 6th best Fangraphs WAR among all starting pitchers. His strikeout numbers weren't really all that great. It was like less than a batter per 9, and he had the fortune of good BABIP and not a lot of home runs. like everything that you just said we should pay attention to, Rich, I am willfully ignoring. But the heck with it. I'm just going to go with it. I hate to do this. I'm going to go with, in a John Smoltz voice, he just knows how to pitch. And on an improved Baltimore team, I could see down ballot AL Cy Young votes for Rogers this year. Not like serious consideration, but like 8th.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my next buy, Trevor Rogers. Any thoughts, Rich? I know you rostered this guy last year.
I enjoyed a lot of that second half production last year. I appreciated that run. I think it's a little bit. I think people can get lazy with the analysis. So you look in and you say, "Oh, we got lucky. He's going to fade." Okay, he had a 181 ERA last year. He's probably not going to have that again because of those luck factors. But he had a 282 FIP. So okay, he might fade a little bit, but he still has the skills. He's got some precedent for it. He had the injury that threw him off track for a few years there. You don't normally like to hear that, but it's not like he's just out of nowhere. So I think the fade swung like much too far, just as a lazy response to saying, yeah, okay, you got lucky. He's not that good.
Yeah.
I think he still had good skills.
Yeah, no doubt. It would be fair to say that he got out of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So that's what you come to the show for, folks, not the baseball. Anyway, all right. Do we want to head into what are we doing? Our third fade already?
I think we're rocking into our third fade, maybe.
All right.
So
yep. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I'm gonna go.
I'm start talking once again. I have lost track of where we're at.
My third fade is going to be Roki Sasaki. So he's ADP at 251, which is already really low. I think maybe this is a much trendier fade than either of my first two choices, and obviously with the ADP that he's at, you can see that. But I actually picked Sasaki here pretty intentionally. It's not a direct parallel, but I'm sure I'm going to get tons of pushback from all the thousands of our listeners about my Trey Yesavage fade. But Roki Sasaki right now is all the things that I think could go wrong with Trey Yesavage. Split is the only plus pitch, check. Mediocre fastball, check. Throws a slider sometimes, not very good with no other pitches, check. Command issues, check. Okay. Of course, Yesavage, he's a little bit taller. He's got a much higher release, but Sasaki actually has close to a foot more extension and throws harder. So physically, they're not identical, but I think it's a fair comparison. Sasaki came up with all the prospect hype and the Twitter clips of the splitter and the league adjusted, and he's gotten, in the weeds with the command. And right now it's looking like he may be a reliever or he might be demoted to the minors. They maybe have a rotation spot open with the Snell injury, but where as much as people are on board with fading Sasaki, I think you might want to think about that with Yesavage.
Interesting. Yeah, that's Sasaki is your kind of like we talked about on the infield shows, your Altuve almost. Where I said that there's every analyst will tell you there's always a spot at which you draft someone. Sounds like Sasaki for you is just don't draft him no matter where he is.
Yeah, I think he's not in a good spot right now. I don't know what kind of value you're going to get out of him. He could be an interesting reliever, but that's certainly not what you're looking for, and he's not going to close. So I don't know what that gets you.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. All right. So my next fade is going to be Mr. Lucky last year, Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta is coming off the board at 88.2. So actually kind of again smack that early 8th round actually. And he was lucky beyond belief last year. I kind of picked this fade out of thin air and I don't know, then I went and researched it a little bit and I was like, he had a career year at 32. Is that really sustainable? Whatever. And then I went and looked at the numbers and holy crap, it's not sustainable. He actually had his second lowest strikeouts per 9 this decade. He was the benefactor of a 235 BABIP. He had a career high left on base percentage, and his home run per fly ball rate was nearly 5 percentage points lower than his career rate. This is not growth. This was luck. Slam on the brakes. Not to say he's not a do not draft. He's a for darn sure do not draft in the 8th round. So anyway, any thoughts on Pivetta, Rich Sayre?
Yeah, I would agree with all that. It's only 3 games in the spring. That doesn't look very good at all right now. Who knows? Sonny Gray had a terrible spring last season and had a great year. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything, especially with veteran pitchers. But agree with all your comments on the luck indicators. Yeah.
I mean, bottom line, you want to draft Pivetta based on his entire career prior to last year, then go for it. But do not draft based on last year. It's not repeating itself. So, all right. Do we want to head into our third buy? Is that where we're at? Yes. Oh, no, actually, real quick. I'm sorry. Before we head to our third buy, I wanted to mention our partners over at Fantrax. Fantrax is the number one fantasy platform. Bar none, hands down, insert your favorite expression here. If your league is not using Fantrax, then you need a new commissioner. And I'm available for a small fee. No, I'm kidding. But no, bottom line is fantrax.com/fantasy six-pack. Head on over, get signed up today. Especially if we've talked about this before, if your league uses minor leaguers or if it has custom categories that need to be scored or those type things. And they've actually added just recently an AI tool for commissioners, for anybody to use, but especially for commissioners to use. If you need answers on how do I do this, or is there a way to score this differently, or whatever, you can go in and you can ask Fantrax, and it answers you in like 30 seconds. It's pretty cool. So anyway, fantrax.com/fantasy six-pack. Sign up today. All right, third buy, Rich Sayre.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to go back to my Red Sox roots. I'm going to go Connelly early here. He's got an ADP of 268, and I think the origin of this for me is I think people in general don't tolerate a lot of nuance. I think Early gets shortchanged a bit as one of Boston's pitching prospects. People like to fit players into buckets. So Early's got to be the crafty lefty. Toll is the flamethrower. It's simpler to think of it that way. But Early's actually seen his fastball speed jump from around 90 when he was in college at Virginia. It was a 92 average in 2024, 93 average in 2025, 95.1 so far in spring training. So he's been working on the fastball velocity a lot. He's got great size in his own right. He's not as tall as Peyton Tolley, so they don't think of him as tall, but he's 6'3". He's got good command of at least 5 pitches. He's got 2 variations, like a slider and a sweeper, so you could count it as 6, you could count it as 5. He's got a deceptive delivery, a deep arsenal. The stuff model's so-so, but with the location combination and the fact that he knows how to pitch, like you said earlier, I I think there's a ton there that's getting overlooked.
I thought he wasn't a crafty lefty.
He's got the stuff too. He doesn't have to be just a crafty lefty. He doesn't have to be Tom Glavine. He could be, the some of the other guys too.
Yeah.
So the big there you go. The big question is, when does he pitch in the majors? By just merit, and we've had this conversation before. I think he should break camp in the rotation, but I also think that's pretty unlikely to happen. I think the Red Sox are going to go Bayo and Oviedo, even though I think early should be in that spot, and then there'll be a need that arises. So I do think you'll get at least 15 starts from early on the season. When all's said and done, I think you're going to have a low 3 ERA. I think you're going to have a K per inning, and you're going to get around 6 wins. So a little bit more of a stash, but ADP at 268, I think you have value late there.
That's great. I like it. That's Connelly really that's a good analogy or good metaphor or whatever. I don't know, you said something that early is not getting his due because he's behind the flame-throwing Tolley. Mm-hmm. And I'm not who knows at this point in their careers, early could wind up with 10 times better a career than Tolley. I mean, who knows? Mm-hmm. But bottom line is that he's not getting his due. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yep. We're early in the Houston Astros organization. People would be on him like white on rice. So good call. So all right. So my third buy is going to be, we're going outside the top 200 here. So I'm going with guy going to 208.8. You'll be shocked to hear, Rich, Edwin Cabrera. So, and that's the end of Rich on the show. No, Edward Cabrera, a couple things about Edward Cabrera. There's a couple fun facts or whatever. One fun fact is, although I'm sure there's more than one, he's I'm sure a diverse and interesting individual. But anyway, Edward Cabrera's entire name can be typed using only your left hand on the home row. So there's that. That's kind of an interesting fun fact. And by interesting, I mean not interesting at all. Post All-Star break last year. Let's talk about baseball, Dave. Post All-Star break last year, he punched nearly 10.5 tickets per 9. He had a 2.93 walk per 9 rate, which is not still that super great. It's not terrible, but whatever. But his career rate is 4.5. So that's a heck of a lot better than 4.5. He went 5-3 over 10 starts, and he averaged 97.2 miles per hour on his fastball. Averaged 97.2 on his fastball. He also throws like a 91, 92 change, which is almost unheard of, but to the point that early on, I don't know if it was Pollock or our friend Nick Pollock or Saris, one of the two of them was wondering if Stackhouse was misreading the pitch or something, but no, sure enough, he just throws a really hard changeup. And then to close out the season, he did have, with that same stretch, he had a 3.42 ERA, but it was backed up with a 3.38 xFIP. So with that xFIP, buy the dip. Edward Cabrera. I'm looking for a major career year with the Cubs. Total breakout. Health is obviously always a concern with this guy, and inconsistency. He can look like Pedro Martinez one start, and he can look like Pedro Guerrero the next. Like Pedro Guerrero is a great hitter, but not a great pitcher, in other words. So anyway, whatever. Bottom line is, I would expect double-digit wins and probably at least, let's say, 160 strikeouts from him, and that's pretty darn good value in the 18th round. So,
yeah. I like the team. I think the Cubs are going to be very good this year. I like to fade Edward Cabrera just because you talk about him so much, but being neutral to the whole thing, he's always had great stuff. The innings is a big question, but questionable command in the past. I actually had a location plus of close to 110 on 2 of his 3 most thrown pitches. So, hey, figuring things out. I said earlier, Shane Baz is on the young side, and this guy's only about a year older than Baz. So,
and actually, you bring up the Cubs. He's going to be backed up, not out. Well, Pete Armstrong in center, and Ian Happen left as like an average defender, but the infield defense for the Cubs should be spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
With Braggers and Swanson and Horner and Bush is like average, whatever. So that's another thing that'll work to his favor. So anyway, All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to close out the show with a fade, a buy, and a closer for y'all to talk, or relief pitcher anyway, for y'all to talk to. We'll be right back. And we're back. And you didn't notice because we were paused. And I like to say that every week. And apparently it annoys some of our listeners, so I'm sorry. Speaking of our listeners, if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm sorry for how unattractive we are. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio, or I don't even know what other podcast platforms there are. I'm sure there's a bunch. If you could subscribe and like our channel, that would be wonderful. It helps us out a lot to get some more audience to our wonderful show. So again, subscribe to the YouTube channel and like on whatever podcast medium you prefer. Rich Sayre, speaking of prefer, which player do you prefer to fade last?
So this is our starting pitcher fade 4. I am going to fade somebody that I actually like quite a bit. Spencer Schwellenbach. He's got an ADP still of 231. I think in Dynasty he's a hold, but the skills he was showing last year before he got hurt, fantastic. I think there's a big possibility he doesn't pitch at all this season. I think if you're going to take him in a redraft, it might be a total washout. I'd hate to be right here. He might try to start ramping back up, feel the soreness again, and have Tommy John and be out this year and next year. I don't think that's an unrealistic possibility. Last year, he ended his season by fracturing his elbow after a particularly dominant game. And it's an extremely unusual injury, I believe. Bone spurs could certainly be directly related to that, but, wasn't dealt with at the time, and now it's an issue this season. So I think you could, maybe look at the other side of things, say his elbow ligaments are so strong, they're stronger than his bones. But either way, I just don't think the vibes are that great right now. I know in ADP 231, you're not investing a whole lot, but I think there's a lot of guys in this range and later that would give you a lot more this season.
Well, yeah, especially if you're saying there's a chance this Schwellenbach gives you nothing by definition. And not anything, not Herman Marquez. That's not more. All right, sorry, Herman. That was me. All right. I don't really have any additional thoughts there. No notes. I kind of tend to agree, and I hope we're both wrong. Schwellenbach's cool.
Yep. Sure great story. Yeah, cool stuff.
Yep.
But we'll see.
So, all right. My fade is none other than Jesus Luzardo. He's kind of like Blake Snell minus those fussy Cy Youngs, right? He's recorded, just bear with me on this one, folks. He's recorded more than 301 outs precisely twice in his career. He's coming up on, so he did through 101/3 innings once, and then 2 times went over, and then the other times it was all under 100 innings. So I went with 301 outs. Yep. But anyway, he doesn't keep the ball on the ground especially well. That doesn't seem like a great long-term thing to be doing in the Citizens Bank ballpark. And he benefited from a career low home run per fly ball rate. Career low home run per fly ball rate last year. Also, probably not something that sustains itself in Citizens Bank ballpark. People are just buying the dip too much. He's going at 74.6. So he's in the 7th round. I don't know, just not feeling it. I like 2 of my previous. I told you guys earlier I would take Trevor Rogers over all of my fades, and I stand by that. I certainly would take Eovaldi and Cabrera over Luzardo. So, any thoughts, Rich Sayre?
No, I think that's fair. I think the fly ball guy with the coming off the career low home run for fly ball rate is an obvious one to look at. And I thought it was interesting the couple starts he had last year that he was apparently tipping his pitches. Seems like he figured that out. But it's just interesting to see how well people can hit even off good stuff when they know it's coming. So
right.
That's something to think about going forward.
That's the old adage about a hitter can hit a bullet if they know, or can time a bullet if they know it's coming.
Yeah.
So, all right. We are heading into our last buy. So, Rich Sayre, what do you got for us for your last buy, sir?
I am going to pick Mick Abel of the Minnesota Twins. You've got an ADP right now.
You can do that.
I see. Thank you. You've got an
that's a biblical reference coming off of Jesus. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
ADP, when I prepared this, the notes for the show a few days ago, of a 388. So that might sneak up a little bit. He's gaining some momentum as the fifth starter potentially. I've said it before on the show. I like the Twins this season more than most. The lineup, not that exciting, especially if Buxton is not in it. But I think the rotation is pretty solid. I think that even without Pablo Lopez, I think right now there's this three-way battle going on. You got Woods Richardson, you got Zebby Matthews, you got Mick Abel. Abel would seemingly be on the outside looking in based on seniority on the roster, but he's pitching lights out in spring. He's always had good stuff, not always had great command, which is kind of the pitcher's equivalent of a hitter with great raw power, but can't hit the ball. But something seemed to click 2025 in AAA, especially after the move over to Minnesota. He's like I said, he's got no earned runs this spring. He's got a bunch of Ks, only one walk. He's got his fastball up to 96.5 miles per hour. That's up from where he was averaging 93 to 94 previously. Throwing the changeup more often. I think he can take the last spot in the rotation. I think even if he doesn't, he'll be up within a month or so. So I think there's a lot of value here, and I think he'll hold that all season and give you some good ratios and some good strikeouts.
Yep, totally agree. Abel is a really, really, really classic post-hype prospect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like if you can be a tired post-hype prospect, if that makes any sense. In other words, like duh, whatever. But Baseball America and MLB Pipeline had him as a top 100 guy 4 years in a row prior to last 21, 22, 23, 24. So he's also got an incredibly long neck, if that helps in any way. He is from Beaverton, Oregon, which is where I believe. Oh no, that's Corvallis. I was going to say it's from where Oregon State is, but I'm wrong. So never mind. Anyway, but no, he's tall. He's got good stuff. I like Mick Abel a lot. I think I don't agree that it's a three-way race. Simeon Woods Richardson, I think, has that fourth starter spot pretty much locked, just because of you're not going to demote that guy. Like even if he has options, you're not demoting.
You should put him in the bullpen because he's a reliever. But
yeah, well,
that's a different conversation.
There is that, yeah. So anyway, you just don't like hyphenated last names. Anyway, all right.
Doesn't help.
It doesn't help. There you go. All right, so we're going to head into my last buy, which is always bet on pedigree. Cade Cavalli. Cade Cavalli is going at 351.5, so in the 30th round, if your draft even has that many rounds. But if it doesn't, I recommend grabbing Cade Cavalli in your last round. He was the 22nd overall pick out of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, in 2020. Heading into 2022, Baseball America had him ranked as their 27th best prospect, probably as an homage to Scott Rowland. So he is having a total mirage of a good spring, like out of control mirage. 0.53 BABIP and 0 home runs allowed. That won't sustain. But I just kind of feel it. This is just a big dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and I think he just kind of shoves as much as a Nats pitcher can possibly. That's a really bad baseball team. But bottom line is, I don't know that you get a lot of wins, but I do think you get some punchies. He's got to stay healthy. But it's kind of like a misnomer, his injury thing, because he was drafted in 2020, right? When there was no minor leagues. And then he came out in 2021, and I believe he led the entire minors in strikeouts, if I remember correctly. And that's what earned him the prospect pedigree going into 2022. And then in 2022, he pitched, I think, a full season or close to a full season. He had like some sort of nagging injury, nothing serious. 23 is when he had the Tommy John, and it took him forever to come back from the Tommy John relative to his peers. So he doesn't really have like injuries so much as he had injury that took a longer rehab than some other folks have. So anyway, bottom line, Cade Cavalli, bet on pedigree, bet on Boomer Sooner, go for it. I also love the fact that there are two dudes named Cade in starting rotations, and they both went to Oklahoma, being Cade Cavalli and Cade Horton. That has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought I would share. Any thoughts on Cavalli?
Yeah, is he going to be healthy? That's the big question.
Hoping they started that way.
Got a lot of arm talent. The team is bad, like you said, but there's value there.
Yeah, there's certainly worse dart throws in your last round.
Mm-hmm.
Don't draft whoever. I don't want to be mean to somebody. Don't draft who's like Nick Martinez on the Rays. Like, why draft that guy? Draft Cade Cavalli. If he blows up in his first two starts, drop him. Who cares? Anyway, all right. We're gonna head into. I sneaked a peek, Rich Sayre, at our Google sheet that we use to put down our picks so that we don't overlap, or we try not to overlap. So I know we're going head to head here.
Okay.
So we're gonna
I wasn't sure, so I looked as well. I saw the name you had written down, but this could go buy or fade. So I wasn't sure.
Oh no, it's buy all day long.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, this is major buy.
Okay.
We're gonna just throw out both players, and then we're gonna debate, so to speak.
Okay.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
So your player is, and
Griffin
just give us your player. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Griffin Jacks.
Griffin Jacks. Okay, and do you have an ADP for him or no?
Team USA relief stud.
Yes.
He is an ADP of 229.
229. Okay, great. And mine is Edwin Uceta, who was at ADP 314 when I prepared this originally. And according to the updated ADP, he's just off the board altogether, which is crazy. So anyway, we both think this is the best reliever to have in fantasy in the Tampa Bay bullpen, which historically has not been a great bullpen to have relievers in. So this is a great call by the two of us. You want to make your case for Jacks first, or you want me to go Uceta first, bud?
I could go first. We'll keep the order going if that works for you.
Yeah, please.
So for me, I'm looking at this bullpen. They traded to get Jacks. I think it was last season, right? Yeah, at the trade deadline. Stuff-wise, he's perennially in the running for, I think, best real-life reliever in baseball. I think he's finally poised to take the closer job. I have in my notes here that Uceta could complicate things at some point, but I think if Jacks can get through April without Uceta in the picture, who's currently out with a shoulder strain, I think whether he comes back or not at that point, Jacks can hold that job. That's the bet that I'm placing here. I think at the minimum in that scenario, he's the strong side closer platoon with Clevenger, I guess. Yeah. Because there is there was a three-way battle that we were talking about, or that Tampa was talking about. So Jacks is fifth in Ks, third in swinging K rate the past two seasons. He leads the league among relievers in pitching plus over those 2 years, which is a combination of stuff plus and location plus. That's my case. I think this is the year. I think if you go on Twitter and you search up Griffin Jacks, you'll see some fun stuff from Pitching Ninja, and that's my case. I rest it.
All right. Here's why you're wrong. I can give you a Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. So like, how about a reference to College Game Day on a 2 minutes one Roto show? Anyway.
Yeah.
Uceta. You said if he can get through April. Uceta is already back throwing bullpens. He threw one 2 days ago. He won't be ready to start the season, but he'll be ready to close it. Anyway, close it because we're talking about close it. Okay. No, Uceta last 2 years rather, 11th among all relievers in K percentage. Granted, Griffin Jacks is 8th. His ERA minus his FIP. 0 over the last 2 years, pitching exactly to his skill set. That's just fun.
Okay.
I have a fun comp for him. I was actually comping him previously to kind of like Yohan Duran, just because that was his, I believe, his countryman, if I remember correctly. Anyway, but I'm going a little off the board here, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as this guy because he's not. But he has the same stuff plus over last year rather on his fastball, and he was 3 points shy on stuff plus on the slider as Andres Munoz. That's a good reliever. Now, Andres Munoz has 2 other pitches that have stuff plus over 100. Uceta is not fortunate enough to have those 2 pitches. So guess what? Ditch the other ones, dude. Just throw the fastball and the slider. You'll be fine. So bottom line is, and actually kind of use your own case against you, Rich. Jax, I agree, is probably the best reliever in that bullpen, which is why I think he won't be the closer. Tampa historically has been a team that deploys their best reliever in this highest leverage situation, not necessarily in the 9th inning.
Yep.
So that's why I would rebuke your case, sir. So
that's fair.
So, all right, that brings a close to the show. Any final parting thoughts? Anything you want to toss out there for our listeners?
No, looking forward to the season. Hopefully you keep up with us. We've got a lot of content on Fantasy Six Pack. Check us out there. A lot of prospect stuff, a lot of dynasty stuff with my colleague. And I'd love to talk to you on X at RSAYRE04.
Yes, sir. And I am at DW, the original, also on Twitter. So feel free to hit me up and ask anything you like. We appreciate you joining us again this week, and we will see you next week, folks. Thanks again.